Not too much being done today. I'm suffering from really bad hay fever, so I don't think I can get much done today. But I did clean up the brake lever. I've cut this one cleanly off, and I've started vaguely figuring out what sort of height I need, but obviously I can't really do that until I've got the body there and I know how much room there is under the scuttle and around the dashboard. I think it's going to be about that sort of long. It'll be something like that. It's just a matter of what will actually fit. So for now, I'll put this aside. I've cleaned up the parts, zinc plated the pawl and the nuts and bolts. It was quite hard actually re-straightening this rod. It was so mangled. It's always really hard to get something like this straight again. But that's probably good enough. And it works under tension anyway, so it's pulling on it, so it doesn't really matter if it's got bends in it. But I think that's kind of all I can do for the day. Tonight I've been playing with the English wheel, just messing around, seeing if I can copy the shape of this door in some aluminium. And I've been playing with it, and I've kind of reached the point where I've kind of run out of skill, and I'm not sure what I'm doing now. I cut out the blank of aluminium and I traced around the rough edges of the door, and I've been wheeling shape into it, and it's been going reasonably well. I got a little bit too much pressure down here, so there are a few track marks in it, which isn't ideal. It looks like there are track marks all over it. It is a little bit rough, but that's just more my fault. But the problem I get is I end up with the right amount of crown, but with curve in the panel, and I'm not sure how you take that out. So what I mean by that is you can push this down and the edges will go down and it gives you the right sort of curvature, but how do you take that curve out of it without taking the crown out of it? It looks a lot wonkier than it actually is. If I sit it on top of the door and sort of put a bit of pressure on it by clamping it down and then pushing it down so it sits flat, it's actually not too bad. It sort of matches up all around the edges, but this edge isn't quite right. But you can sort of see if I take some of the curve out of it, it pulls it down and it actually fits a lot better. So that's where I'm not sure what to do, how you get this right. It's not far off if you do clamp it all down so it's even around the edges. You do get the right sort of crown, and there is a lot of crown in this. Let me take that off. So this is the original door. You can see how much shape there is in it. It's quite a bit, and it's not exactly even. It's sort of flatter at the back here, and then there's more in the middle, and then you get an idea of exactly how barrel shaped it is by looking at the amount of crown on it there. You know, it's a lot. So although this thing looks all completely mangled, it's not too far off, I think. But this is where I get to the point where I just keep playing with it and I can't get any better. So I'll have to go and reread all of my English wheeling books and figure out how best you sort of handle this. I think if there was a timber frame there and you were nailing it to it as it is, it would be pretty close. I've played with this a bit more just to get the edges flat again. I didn't do any more wheeling on it. Basically I just kind of stood on it and flattened it out with my foot a bit like that, just to push it down. And that actually seems to have done the trick. I think I might be a little bit flat in that corner, but the rest of it is looking reasonably right. And again now when if I fit it on it and clamp it around the edges, I don't have enough clamps at the moment. If I sort of clamp it like that, it does fit a lot better. I can feel there's a low spot there. It's kind of going whoop. But it's definitely closer, but it's still not perfect. And I'm not sure at which point you'd stop, and instead of trying to fit it to the skin here, would you fit it to the frame? So you'd have the timber frame, and then you'd start tweaking this to fit the frame. And of course also it's going to change when you do all these bends and things. There's going to need to be a little bits of shrinking and stuff when you make these flanges, so it doesn't warp the top of the panel as well. So it's quite tricky. This is what it looks like from the back, just with a few clamps sort of holding it in place. The other difficulty with doing this that I have is the fit around here is pretty good, but at the front here, where these hinge pieces are, these are bending over, and so I can't sit this completely flat because it hits those. But I also have to be careful when I'm clamping it, I'm not just distorting the original panel, I guess. But it's close. Kind of looks door-like, but I went and raised just the little flat bits. I can feel in here it's a bit flat here as well, but that's just kind of a matter of smoothing it out, I guess. I think that's where I'm going to leave it tonight. Like I say, I think I've run out of ability now, but it's getting close. I actually tried holding it up against the car, and the bottom edge fits the chassis rail quite well. It's just hard to tell if it's actually touching all the way. I think it actually still needs a little bit more shape that way. But I think that'll be a job for tomorrow. This shows exactly how good the little cyclone extractor on the Sandblaster works. You can see it's picked up quite a lot of dust, and it's very fine dust, which shows how much it breaks up when you're actually using this stuff. This is why you have to replace it, of course, because it eventually just breaks down into fine powder. But I'm really pleased with how that works. That came out really well.